Good morning, Huskies. Mr. Crawford and Mr. Stuff here. We're going to do a recorded presentation for you that will be given on August 18th for faculty and staff. It'll also be given on September 1st for faculty and staff, but we thought having access online would be a good idea. So we are going to jump to a few PowerPoint slides and do some voiceovers for you. Thank you.
So the document that we will be referring to throughout the whole of the meeting is actually something that's available in your school buildings for all of our faculty and staff. It is the standard procedures and general practices for returning to school in the fall. We're going to highlight some of these procedures and practices that are essential for everyone's understanding as we move forward. But before we move forward, we want to discuss a little bit about how we got where we are today.
We know and we understand that this is a stressful time for a lot of our staff and our faculty and even our families. But this is part of a larger story that started way back in March on the 13th when our schools were shut down due to COVID. In the spring, with online and remote learning, we did the best we could with what we had. And we want to thank everybody for all the work and effort and going above and beyond for our families. We just can't describe the immense amount of gratitude we have for our teachers and our staff for what you did for kids. It was really incredible. When the school year ended, it was time to evaluate what we did. And we diligently looked at what went well and what needed to be improved. And you know, two of the things that we thought needed to be improved was just the number of apps that we had in place for communicating with families. So we will look to narrow that down with the use of Parent Square and with the use of Seesaw coming forward here. We were waiting as well. We were waiting for guidance from New York State on what would be the rules of the game for how to reopen our schools. Once we had those rules of the game, we could develop a plan. We got those rules on July 30th. And then we went into this planning phase where it was all about building compliant models with those rules and planning for the safety of our faculty, staff, and our students. Those plans were submitted to State Ed, and on August 7th, we received the green light from the governor to proceed with those plans and open New York State schools. And for us here at Olean City Schools and ECU and Washington West, that meant the hybrid learning plan, and we'll get into more of that a little bit later. Now, it is time to execute that plan so that we can reevaluate it again and adjust as we need it. There may be lots of opinions out there as to what we should have done or what our neighbors are doing. You have to trust that the plan we have in place was developed with input from a lot of our stakeholders. And simply put, it is now time to execute. We will be adjusting that plan. We will be modifying that plan as we go. But this is all leading down a path to bring all of our students back. That is the overall goal. That is what everyone wants, to have a full class of students here and to do school as close to normal as we can, because we know that the hybrid model that we are starting with now is not perfect. It does have flaws, but it is the plan that we're going with, and we thank you for all of your help in its execution.
Our major format for today, we want to talk a little bit about some of the documents that are outlined and some of the general practices and procedures that are outlined inside this blue paper that will be distributed to each and every one of you. First and foremost, we want to review the hybrid model and the remote model that was put in place and the option that was given to our families moving forward. We'll also discuss some general personal safety guidelines and some classroom safety and setup requirements as we move forward with the plan. We want to highlight our building protocols and practices so that everyone is aware of what the expectation is across the board. Of course, if you have questions, we ask that you send those questions to huskystrong@oleanschools.org, and those questions will be answered in a timely manner to assist you in planning, to assist you in any other thoughts and suggestions or insight that you might have that we may in fact be not thinking about as we move forward. So we're going to press on And the first thing we want to talk a little bit about is our hybrid model and how we landed where we are today.
So today's presentation is going to start real big. So this is the framework we're going to open in the hybrid model. When our phones have been ringing at Eastview and Washington West over the past week, as we have been calling families personally, one-to-one, it has been, good afternoon, hybrid or remote? Because that is the question that we want to answer from all of our families. We need to know specifically who is coming through our doors this coming fall and who is opting to stay home 5 days a week for online learning. But first, a note about why we are hybrid. I mentioned before on July 30th, New York State gave us the rules of the game. And those rules of the game required certain amounts of social distancing, which requires certain amounts of space and staff to supervise. We are well aware of what some of our neighbors are doing in bringing everybody back, and they are very fortunate to have the space to do that. But when Olean has elementary schools without any extra rooms or certified staff to cover and teach and deliver the instruction that our students deserve, it was not possible to bring everyone back. And we are fully aware of the burden that places on families for daycare. It certainly does not sit well with us, but the hybrid plan was kind of the lesser of many evils here for how to open our school. The other benefit for the hybrid plan is its ability to pivot. As you see the friends reference there when they're moving that couch up the stairs. Pivot, pivot. And what I mean by pivot is we could pivot to a complete model of online learning where all the students, if school has to be closed down again, all the students would learn from home. And the advantage is they will have some time in class to learn how to use Seesaw and to learn how to use some of those devices. It can also pivot easily to everyone coming back to school. And obviously that's the most ideal situation. We would just reassign some of our remote students to classrooms. Parents were given a choice to keep their students home and learn 5 days a week in what we'll call the full remote model, or they were given a chance to attend the hybrid model. And we'll go into some details right now about what is in the hybrid model.
So the plan for the hybrid model of instruction would include 2 days of in-person instruction. We've divided students into cohorts based on their last name. There will be equitable distribution of students between the red and the gold cohort. 2 days of in-person instruction will then yield 3 days of remote instruction, and the primary platform for that remote learning will be done on Seesaw. Parent Square will also be available for teachers and district administration to communicate with families regarding assignments, regarding expectations, practices, protocols that are associated with reopening in the fall. For Seesaw, on the 3 days of remote instruction, we are asking that not only are there lessons for ELA and for math, but in some cases we may be allowing some paper-based activities to go home to students in the form of packets. Those packets could then be brought back to school and used as a way to monitor whether or not students were completing assignments during their remote instruction. We'll get into attendance a little bit later just to talk a little bit more about how we're tracking whether or not there was meaningful engagement during those remote learning days. Again, we are using the cohort model. So we have red cohort, which will attend on Monday and Tuesday. And we have the gold cohort that's going to attend on Thursday and Friday. Our remote day for all students is on Wednesday. And we did make strong consideration for siblings across the district. So the siblings will attend on the same days to assure that families have the support that they need at home should an older sibling be there to care for younger students as well. So the next conversation topic will be that of remote. But before we do that, I'm going to hand it over to Mr. Crawford.
And just a note here on students as they were divided into red and gold cohorts. It is denoted in eSchool next to the student's name. There will be a red dot or a gold dot. Red is Monday, Tuesday, gold is Thursday and Friday. Families will also be notified in the mail this week of their cohort assignments. For students in the full remote, so we have the full remote, these are 5 days a week. Here is the plan for instruction. As of today, we are awaiting the closing of an internal posting seeking Olean City School District teachers, members of the OTA, who are interested in being a solely remote instructor for kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. Once those teachers are named, we will be able to assign students to those teachers, and they will have 5 days of remote instruction. Now, this instruction will differ from the hybrid online instruction. The hybrid online instruction is mostly asynchronous, meaning it can be done at any time. It will be done through Seesaw. Think of it as more of assignment-based than attending class online. In the full remote model, it will be both synchronous and asynchronous, meaning there will be set times during the day when students will need to be online with their teacher, either working as a whole class or in small groups. For asynchronous instruction, there will also be assignments that students in the full remote model will need to complete. And again, what both models have in common is the use of Seesaw and Parent Square. It will be important for all of our staff to familiarize yourself with the differences between the two. Parent Square is an app for communication, and Seesaw is an app for instruction. So if you think about robocalls and snow days and reminders for concerts and some of the things that we used to use for Remind and Remind 101, that will be now used in Parent Square, and Seesaw is the instructional platform.
As many of you know, one of our major goals throughout the Olean City School District is to, be very thoughtful about the personal safety, well-being of not only our faculty and staff, but our students as well. So one of the primary topics of conversation in our session today is to talk about personal safety. We encourage you to review the district's reopening plan, which has been posted to the school's website in its entirety. You can review that not only for yourself as a staff member, but for students that you may have in attendance in the district as well. So some of the practices and expectations that we have for our faculty, staff, students, and visitors are all listed below. Number one, anyone that is entering the building. This includes student teachers. This includes BOCES classroom teachers and BOCES personnel. This includes our support staff. Everyone will need to complete a health screening each and every day. Our offices are outfitted with an iPad. Should you not be able to do it at home, you would need to enter in the main entrance daily to complete the health screener. If you do have access to a device at home, we encourage you to complete this screener prior to coming to work for the day. A link will be sent out so that everyone can do so, and we do receive notification that the screener has been complete. So if you are in the building and you have not yet completed the screener, we will track you down to make sure that you do it. In addition, students will be screened as well. Daily temperatures will be taken of students. They will be given a pass or a fail at their assigned entrance upon arrival. We cannot track specific temperatures of students, but we can indicate whether or not they have an elevated temperature and were asked to leave for that day. In addition, the screener that our staff is completing will be available for families to do on behalf of their child via Parent Square, and that is something that can be completed periodically. It can be completed daily, but know that our temperature checks will be the primary form of screening for our students upon entry into the building. An additional note, hand washing is essential. We will have sanitizer throughout our building so that students can use sanitizer. They are permitted to bring sanitizer to school with themselves and use at their leisure. However, know that it is accessible within our buildings. Additionally, all classrooms with sinks will have soap, and there are signs posted to encourage hand washing. We are asking that not only do our faculty and staff make it a concerted effort to wash their hands, but also that they teach students about the importance of hand washing. Masks. Masks are essential when social distance cannot be maintained. Students will be required to wear masks when they transition, into their classroom or out of their classroom into the hallway. At arrival, students will have on masks. At dismissal, students will have on masks. The district is purchasing masks for all students and staff and will be available for opening day. You are able to provide your own mask, and students are able to provide their own masks should they choose to do so. Again, the expectations for wearing masks are if you cannot maintain a social distance of 6 feet or more, the mask is on. If there is not a physical barrier between you and another student or a student and his or her peer, a mask would need to be on. Keep in mind that masks and appropriate wearing of masks is something that can be discussed with students as well. How to put a mask on and off could be an initial introduction to our students at the beginning of the school year. To help support their understanding of why we are wearing masks, you may in fact choose to do a lesson with your class as to how masks are helping prevent the spread of the virus. Keep in mind that we will establish expectations for masks holistically across the board, and we want to assure that we are maintaining the safety and security of all. If a student does not come to school with a mask, we will provide one for them. If a staff member does not come to school with a mask, we will provide one for them. Last piece here is social distancing. We want to assure that we maintain social distance whenever possible. Obviously, in our hallways, we don't have an excess amount of space to keep students 6 feet apart at all times. That is when students will need to wear masks. In the classroom, we are asking that desks be spaced out 6 feet apart, or partitions are placed between tables to assure that students are not in close contact with one another at any point in time. In the gymnasium, we will require that students are 12 feet apart per the New York State guidance, and we will assure that that occurs during all physical education classes as well.
Let's go a little bit further into personal safety. So we want steps to protect yourself. Again, you can read some of those more specifically in the blue document that you were handed. There it is. And you can review those. The graphic here on the screen are some things that you could teach your students to do instead of hugging and shaking hands and high-fiving and physical touching. The graphic there is adorable. I take absolutely zero credit for it. That would be my stuff. So please maintain social and physical distancing as we move forward. Please practice personal hygiene protocols. There is signage well around the building in terms of washing hands for 20 seconds, reminding students that only one person should be in the bathroom at a time. Also, please review on your time here, page 4, where it says, do not come to work if, and basically that is if you are feeling ill with any of the symptoms outlined on page 4, do not come to work. And you're going to follow normal protocols for logging that absence into the ASOP management system. The symptoms of COVID, if you do not yet know, will be marked around the building at entrances on posters. They are marked on the health screener, and they are also outlined and described on page 6. And it's also very important during this time, not just to think about physical health, but also mental health. It is an incredibly taxing time to be an educator, to work in a school, to be charged with the education and care of our most important young students. So please refer to page 27, and there you will see some recommended procedures for school counselors and school psychologists in terms of mental health. As for subs and sub coverage, like I said, we are going to still log absences in the ASOP system. Please notify the school immediately should you or be under a physician's care for a suspected COVID case, exposure to a COVID case, or a positive COVID case test. It may be a good idea this year with the introduction of Seesaw to include in your subfolder activities that have already been preloaded into Seesaw, so that in the event of your absence for one or an extended day, there are already things loaded into Seesaw that can easily be done by a substitute or an aide covering your class. It is anticipated that the district will operate with less subs than it has in previous years. So we will be asking aides to cover more classes. We will be using contract language for the reimbursement of that when that is the inevitable event. And we just thank you for your patience and understanding as we work through staff absences as they are expected as we move forward.
Again, we want to reiterate the importance of not only your safety and health and well-being, but the safety of everyone that steps foot in our building throughout the course of the day. So again, we are being very responsive, and we want to recognize that there is certain PPE that will be on hand within our school building. This is on page 36 of the blue document, and it reiterates the importance of mask wearing, and if the case may need, if it may need to be done, we may require gloves at any point in time. So it's late in the day. We just gotta, you know.
It's 9 a.m.
It's not. We did say good morning, but it's not morning. All right, procedures and protocols. Just some things that we want to keep intact across the board. When you are coming in after hours, of course, we're requiring that you sign in. We are asking that you not bring your children or your spouses or additional guests into our building. Reason being, again, the whole point behind this is we want to limit and contain the population that is coming into our school building at any point in time. If we're allowing additional people in the building throughout the course of the evening hours, we could potentially be opening ourselves up to additional cases or concerns. Again, we are asking that you sign in on weekends or during evening hours. If at all possible, if there's a break in the day, or if you have a moment where the students are not in the room, we want to clean surface areas and things that are commonly used. For example, you may have something that is used for a center activity that was used on Monday, and before you introduce it to a group on Tuesday or individual students on Tuesday, you want to assure that that item is in fact sanitized. In your classroom, we are asking that you remove any soft covered items. These cannot readily be sanitized by our cleaning staff, and they are something that we would like to be physically removed from your space. Rugs are okay. Keep in mind that if you cannot maintain social distance on the rugs, masks would in fact need to be on. So students would need to mask up to sit on a carpet. Desks and seats should all face one direction. There should be a primary point of instruction for your students. This can help eliminate the need for you to wear a mask all the time as a classroom teacher, and can help maintain that social distance and that point of instruction consistently throughout the course of the school day. Windows can be open, doors can be open, fans are okay. Water bottles will be permissible. Please note that we do not want classroom water fountains to be used. They can use the bottle fillers on the hallway fountains if and when at all possible, but please note that we encourage students maintain social distance when filling those up. Again, cubbies can be skipped for belongings. We are making a concerted effort to keep the items contained if at all possible. So at Washington West, we are planning to keep all student belongings in the hallway. And at Eastview?
Eastview will be gapping our cubbies so that students in the red cohort will have a space between them, and then the yellow cohort will go in that space so that it'll be red, yellow, or red, gold, red, gold.
And perhaps here's the greatest, downfall of all of this is no hugs. So you gotta stiff arm everybody. Just kidding. You don't really want to do that.
Do not stiff arm our students.
Don't stiff arm our students. But again, we want to make sure we're maintaining limited contact with students. Again, you can go back to that social greetings and think considerably about how you might wish to greet students or teach students to greet one another. We want to reduce communal supplies or clean them frequently. If you have a supply pack for students, I would encourage that so that students have their own crayons, they have their own pencils, they have their own glue sticks. But if that is not physically possible, do know that you would want to sanitize that between cohorts. It is okay to decal your floor and surfaces to help with social distancing. Please verify with us before you put anything down that could have an impact on surfaces, but Again, if you are willing or wishing to decal a floor to mark a specific space for a student, just verify with us and we are happy to assist with that.
The school nurses in both of our buildings will play a huge, critical, essential, and undoubtedly a stressful role in dealing with the days and the months ahead. We ask for your patience and for your grace in dealing with our school nurses as they work through some unprecedented times. So the plan for monitoring and tracking health conditions, and we want to talk about visits to the nurse. We know that students ask to see the nurse in an elementary school for a vast number of reasons, ranging from maybe they are seriously ill or their lips are chapped. So we want to be very careful here about how we handle this. Any student that reports to the nurse with a symptom of COVID will be evaluated by our nurse for the validity of those symptoms. And if it isn't found, in fact, that those are the symptoms the child is presenting with, it will be treated like COVID. Our nurses' offices in both buildings have been amended so that there are two areas, one for more of a quarantine isolation area for students presenting with COVID-like symptoms. Those students' families will be contacted and asked to pick up their students immediately. They will need to be held out of school until they are free of symptoms for 24 hours, or if those symptoms still remain, they will need to present a written doctor's note explaining that those symptoms are not part of COVID, but yet due to another concern or condition. So that is how the students will work their way back into school. To clear up some huge rumors and misconceptions out there, schools will not be testing for the COVID virus. That will be worked out between a family, the child, and that family's physician and or possibly the health department. So our nurse, teachers, any employee of our schools, our school principals will not be testing students for the COVID virus. Here at Eastview, because our office is further away from the nurse's office, anytime a student needs to leave the nurse's office and go home, we will be going into a shelter in place. And for the most part, students should be out of the hallway anyways here at Eastview, except for when transitioning to the gymnasium. But we are going to completely isolate off our hallways and have that student escorted to and from the nurse's office under a shelter in place so that we can assure that there is no unintended spread of any germs or things of that nature. And so this may result, not just may, but will result in more students going home from school. And we will have to work with our families more so than ever, because we know that there are students that will figure this out. There are 6 and 7-year-olds that will know that if they say they have a sore throat or a runny nose, that it may get them to be a ticket out the door. So we will require our teachers and our nurse to work with families to understand why this exists. We also understand that this is very difficult on families to have to come and pick up their child. We also know and anticipate that there are families that just won't come and pick up their child from school. And if that is the case, that child will be held in our nurse's office in a quarantine area. So we have purchased some barriers that will be behind plexiglass, and unfortunately that child will need to remain there until they are able to be picked up from school. That child will also not be allowed to ride district provided transportation. So we do anticipate a lot of hangups, a lot of hiccups with visits to the nurse's office. And so that is why at the beginning of this slide, I thank you for your patience and grace as we work through this process.
In terms of schedules and assignments, this is related specifically to our Eastview and Washington West faculty and support staff. The teacher workday, as aforementioned, is 7:30 a.m. to 2:30 p.m. Your prep period will be from 7:30 to 8:10, and you will have a contractual lunch. There will be 90 minutes over each cohort for you to engage with students via Seesaw. This could be that you are checking assignments. It could be that you are reaching out and contacting students that may not have completed specific assignments, or it may in fact be something that you are doing, creating a lesson to post to Seesaw for the remote learners at home. For our support staff schedules, please know that these are in progress. We are working through them now. I would anticipate that your times may in fact not be as they were in the past. We will try to make them as consistent as possible, but your times could very well shift. We will have a meeting specific for support staff as we have more information as to your roles and responsibilities and potential shifts in what it is that you may be doing throughout the course of the day. In terms of other room assignments and changes, as Mr. Crawford has mentioned, we are waiting to see who our remote teachers are going to be. If we have some remote teachers from Eastview specifically that are selected, those rooms that our teachers are currently in will be used for resource room, for special ed, and for additional services as needed. At Washington West, if this were to happen, we will play it by ear and see whether or not that teacher is assigned to that specific space or if we need that space for other reasons. Again, our bell schedule, we sent that out via email to all of our faculty and staff. Our bell schedule is 8:10 is the first bell, 8:20 is the second bell. This is for our students in person. At 8:30, that is when the school day essentially will begin for our students. There will be 30-minute special blocks with 5-minute transition times in between. And we will stagger dismissal at the end of the day beginning at 2:10 with all students ideally out the door by 2:20 p.m. And again, teacher day would end at 2:30 p.m.
One of the minute issues that we will need to address is attendance. It is very easy to take attendance when school is done in person. If they are sitting in the desk and they are in your room, they are here. However, when we talk about attendance on the hybrid learning days, we want to talk about what that looks like. And so we are choosing to define a student's attendance on a remote day as that student showing and demonstrating some sort of meaningful engagement with the assignments that are presented. And so what we are going to do is basically say that if they do the assignment for the day, they were present for the day, which means it should raise other questions as to, well, what if they don't do it during the course of a normal school day? So we're going to ask our teachers to take attendance or update attendance anyways at the end of the day around 2 o'clock. And that attendance can be amended as needed. So for example, if a teacher is taking attendance at 2 o'clock and a student did not complete any assignments, that student can be marked absent for the day. However, if in checking the work the next day, that student's family completed that work in the evening, that attendance can be amended. If there are no seesaw assignments to base meaningful engagement on, you can mark the students here for now and see if paper packets that would be sent home in lieu of seesaw were completed. We know that pre-K, kindergarten, and first grade may not start seesaw in full force right away, and instead they may opt for paper packets. And so we are going to use those paper packets as a measure of meaningful engagement. So that begs the question that when you create those packets, you definitely want to spell out in there what assignments were for Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, so that when that assignment comes back completed, you can see that that was the evidence for meaningful engagement for that given day. We do expect many questions for attendance to come up, but you just have to kind of understand the philosophy that they may not be physically in a seat. The philosophy is meaningful engagement demonstrated for a day based on the assignments given by a teacher.
And to kind of wrap things up, we just have some additional information regarding some protocol within our own school buildings. First and foremost, again, we've mentioned student arrival. Students will be screened upon arrival. They will have their temperature taken, and our staff will denote whether or not they are a pass or a fail. There will be a waiting area for our students. So students will arrive, and they likely will arrive before the end of your contractual prep time. They will not be permitted access to classrooms, but we will have a waiting area where supervision will be provided, and students will keep masks on until they are permitted to enter their classrooms. Again, students will likely have breakfast in the classroom. They will not be eating that breakfast in the hallway during supervised times. They'll grab their breakfast, bring it in the classroom, eat their breakfast before the day begins officially at 8:30. Some things to consider for moving throughout the building. We are significantly limiting transitions to and from the classroom. Majority of the time, students will be in your classroom. On hallways, there will be directions, so students will know which side of the hallway to maintain. We don't have hallways here at Washington West, so we don't really have to worry about that. And restrooms, we are asking that we significantly limit restroom usage to one at a time whenever possible. Of course, there may in fact be some emergency situations, and if that does happen to arise, we will deal with it as it comes, but know that we are trying to limit restroom use one at a time to assure that students can get in, wash their hands, get out, and the next student can transition in. That also brings up the point, restrooms will be sanitized throughout the day. They will not need to be sanitized immediately after use. Again, that is something that we will take into consideration as we move forward with our plan. We discussed cubbies. Lunch will also be served in the classroom, and recess will be conducted either in the classroom or in another viable location, depending on whether or not the weather permits, knowing full well that masks will be on if distances cannot be maintained. In any instance of physical activity, students need to maintain a distance of 12 feet. We have decided that the playgrounds will not be used. Playgrounds are not being sanitized, so students will not be given access to the playgrounds during school hours. What they do after the bell rings and the day ends is their business. So we don't have to worry about that, but know full well that we are not sanitizing the playgrounds for our students. For medical health needs, call the nurse prior to sending a student down. The last thing we would want is for there to be a situation where we have 10 kids clustered in the nurse's office at any point in time. We want to assure that there is space, that students that need to be isolated are placed in the isolation location prior to more students flooding in. Again, we want to be considerate of what those symptoms are. Those symptoms are listed in the blue document, and note those accordingly, and be very thoughtful about when it is vital to send a student to the nurse. Emergency drills, just know we are still required to conduct fire drills. However, we cannot do building-wide fire drills. They will be fire drills by classroom. So we will practice those accordingly and come up with some great way to make it really, really exciting. Totally. Okay. Copiers, as you know, our buildings have several copy machines throughout. We do not want to have a cluster of people standing around the copy machine and waiting for their prints to come. Okay, that was good, huh? All right, so we are asking that if you are at the copier, it is one person at a time. Mask up, please. Also make sure that after you are done using the copy machine, wipe it down. Just like when you are at the gym and you wipe down your equipment after use, we would like for you to do the same with the copy machines. And please do not wait in line or wait in the queue if the machine is busy. Come back another time and know that hopefully there will not be any issue with that. Again, copy machines will be available in the morning during your prep times. They will be available at the end of the day as well and throughout the course of the school day. Support staff will be on hand to assist with that, but we ask again, one person at a time. The last piece here is student dismissal. We will stagger student dismissal beginning at 2:10 p.m. Alternating exits will be used just as we've used them in the past, and we will assure that we can make a concerted effort to keep students distant at any point in time. Know that this will be a trial run from the start, but masks will be required by our students, and we were strongly encouraging families to be wearing masks outside. We are currently awaiting markers for our concrete and blacktop that indicate 6 feet distances for the exterior of our building to assure that parents and families stand at a 6 feet distance from one another if they cannot in fact have a mask on, but we will strongly encourage that they do have masks when bringing students to and from school, and that they wear them accordingly with our expectations for drop-off and dismissal. So that is essentially all we have for you today. This is a general overview of some of the things in the blue document that everyone will have access to. We strongly encourage you to read through the expectations and the protocol that the district has outlined within this document. and we strongly encourage you to review the full reopening plan at our school's website. Should you have any questions, we encourage you to send them to huskystrong@oleanschools.org so that we can populate all of the questions and address them accordingly across the board. And with that,
So we thank you for viewing this presentation. Like we said at the beginning, this presentation will be given in person tomorrow on the 18th of August and also on the 1st of September. So we normally pause for questions at this time. However, we are creating this video for our faculty and staff to review at their own leisure. We know that this will be a challenging year ahead. We are choosing to use a tagline this year, "This is ours." Last year we used a tagline, "This is us." We are just amending that because we didn't get to finish that year. And so this year we're going to embrace all that comes through those doors in a few days and collectively say that this is ours. We will meet the challenge ahead. And we know that you are more than capable and have the support that you need to do so. And again, thank you for viewing the presentation. And please, please, please reach out for questions. We certainly welcome them. Ms. Stuff, what do you say?
have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you soon. Go Huskies!